This video is sponsored by Squarespace. More about them later in the episode. It's that time of year again. We're all looking forward to the new Formula 1 season, and this time it's a whole new era for Formula 1. Our 2022 lineups are officially in, so I'm going to rank the 2022 driver lineups. Let's have a look. My name's Andy, and this is Behind the Drive. Number 10, Haas. For the second year in a row, I've had to go for Haas at number 10. Schumacher and Mazepin were rookies last season and rarely got the opportunity to fight with other cars, given they had such a poor challenger for 2021. Of course, with both drivers having a season under their belt, they're certainly in a better place than they were last year, but realistically, both drivers have a lot of development ahead of them in Formula 1. Schumacher is undoubtedly the better of the two drivers and has the potential to be a great F1 driver in the future. His history through the feeder categories showed that he took a significant step forward in his second year in a new series, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do going into this season. The German driver also has a lot to prove. He's perhaps the most talented member of the Ferrari driver academy right now, but with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz at the main team right now, it's difficult to see Schumacher breaking his way into that team anytime soon. So with that as a driving factor, I think we could see a big step forward for Mick Schumacher this season. As for Nikita Mazepin, I think this season needs to be an improvement on last year. He struggled compared to Schumacher in both qualifying and the races in 2021, and yes, he's paying for his seat, so he's unlikely to be dropped. But regardless, an improvement is certainly needed. Hopefully his first year in F1 was a learning curve and he finds a way to improve going into this new era. Number 9, Williams. Next up, I think is another pretty obvious selection with Williams in at number 9. Their driver lineup has taken a negative hit in my opinion going into 2022. The team have lost George Russell, who had been with the team for 3 years and was a great team leader and a driver with a large amount of talent. However, it isn't all bad, as he's been replaced with Alex Albon, a driver with recent experience at one of the best teams in the sport. Albon is a driver that's shown a huge amount of potential. He was very quickly promoted to Red Bull, who was a team in need of a driver that could support Max Verstappen at the front. And once he was there, he delivered some exceptional results in the second half of the 2019 season, doing well to achieve a top 6 result at most of his races for that team. 2020 though was a significant drop-off for Albon, as he failed to achieve the same results over a full season with a trickier car. As a result, Albon is a driver with a point to prove in 2022. A return to the sport looked increasingly unlikely over the course of 2021, but this is an opportunity and it's an interesting one, given the Williams car is powered by Mercedes engine, and the Thai driver continues to have a connection with that Red Bull team. But I think he's a great driver for Williams to recruit, with great potential and a point to prove. As for Nicholas Latifi, well, I think 2021 was a great season for the Canadian driver. He scored his first points in Formula 1 with a 7th place finish in Hungary, and managed to beat Russell in qualifying on 2 occasions, which yes, isn't exactly exceptional, but it was a significant step forward when compared with 2020. Latifi's position at Williams is probably a risk, considering the money he brings into the team is now less critical since the team's takeover by Doralton Capital in 2020. His 2 years of experience in the team will certainly be valuable this year with the new regulations, but he will have to perform better if he wants to keep that spot at the team for 2023 in my opinion. Overall, it's a team that has had their hand forced with a change to their driver lineup, but I think they've done a good job to bring in a driver with some valuable and recent experience in Alex Albon. It sounds like the team tried to go for Valtteri Bottas but moved too late, and I think he would have been a better option given the value of experience with the significant regulation changes, but regardless, Albon's a good driver to go for with potential in the future. Number 8, Alfa Romeo. Next up, in 8th, we have Alfa Romeo, who have an all-new driver lineup for 2021, and the two drivers are at very different stages in their careers. Valtteri Bottas is a driver that has just spent 5 years at the top of the sport racing for Mercedes, but has lost out of his position as a result of the team looking to their future. During his time at the team, he supported them to achieve 5 Constructors' Championships, and did an excellent job throughout when supporting Lewis Hamilton. At Alfa Romeo, Bottas will have a new role as a team leader. He's going to be expected to lead the Alfa Romeo team through these new regulations and will be critical in providing adequate feedback to the team. He's absolutely capable of doing this, but one point of concern for me would be that he's typically struggled to work his way through the midfield whenever he's found himself there in his Mercedes. Yes, that Mercedes car isn't exactly designed to be able to follow others well, and the new regulations should make following other cars easier. But in the Alfa Romeo, Bottas will undoubtedly spend more time following other cars, which will mean his racecraft may be questioned. Alfa Romeo's second driver is Guan Yu Zhou, the first Chinese driver in Formula 1, and he comes with significant sponsor backing. Team principal Fred Vasseur has said that he's had more sponsorship approaches since signing the Chinese driver than he's had in 25 years. So there's undoubtedly a huge financial benefit for the Switzerland-based team. But is the driver talented enough? Well, I think there's a wider video to make about this, but to summarise, I think Zhou could impress. He had a strong campaign in Formula 2 in 2021 with a third place finish, and he's made steady progress in his 3 seasons in that category. He's definitely not the most talented driver, but he's better than a number of people have given him credit for, in my opinion. Overall, it's Bottas's experience that brings this driver lineup up in the rankings compared with Williams, although I believe both of these driver lineups are very similar in quality. Before we get into the next team on the list, I want to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that enables you to build your own website and run your business online. There are loads of easy templates that you can choose from that suit all of your potential website needs, and there are webinars and forums that can support you to build your website, not to mention the templates giving you step-by-step instructions to help you get underway. So if you haven't built a website before, or if you've built many websites in your time, Squarespace is the place for you. Make sure you go to squarespace.com for a 14-day trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/behind-the-drive for 10% off your first website or domain. The link that you need is in the description, so make sure you head over to Squarespace and build your new website today. Number 7. Aston Martin. Up next, in 7th, is Aston Martin. Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll will be in their second season as teammates this year, and last year they were fairly closely matched, with Vettel being slightly ahead of Stroll. Vettel has significant talent and experience, winning 4 titles in a row from 2010 to 2013 with Red Bull, so there's no doubt that he's one of the most successful drivers on the grid, but there has to be a question mark over his form over the last couple of years. He's undoubtedly going to be a brilliant driver to have at that team, given his vast experience through multiple aerodynamic eras. He's also had a large amount of experience developing multiple cars with multiple teams, so I'd like to think he'll be one of the best drivers to have in your team if you want to develop a car quickly. And Aston Martin will be looking to do exactly that with their new investment. Lance Stroll is a driver that realistically doesn't have to worry about his seat. He's definitely got some talent, and he shows glimpses of brilliance with occasional podiums and strong results. Last year he didn't have an exceptional season. He was driving a tricky car which was unable to live up to the performances of the team's 2020 Challenger. So he'll be looking to come back stronger and hope that his team can create a better car for this season coming. This driver pairing is certainly the most experienced we've seen so far on this list, and I believe that this experience will be beneficial when it comes to this new car. Number 6. Alpha Towery. Alpha Towery next, and the driver that brings this ranking up significantly is Pierre Gasly. Ever since he's had a point to prove after being dropped by Red Bull in 2019, he's been so good for that midfield team. Last year he was so important to the success of Alpha Towery, consistently qualifying and finishing in the top 6 and delivering great results in that car. He's a driver that's very settled in that environment, and that has put him in a good headspace which has allowed him to perform well for 2.5 years in that seat. For now, Alpha Towery is the best seat that the Frenchman can get, and in my opinion he's deserving of a spot at a stronger team based on his talent, but where he fits is a difficult one to judge. Going into 2022, I expect he'll want to deliver more of the same as he continues to assert himself as the team leader. Yuki Tsunoda will be looking to continue his improvement though after a tricky first season. One of the themes of the Japanese driver's rookie year was mistakes, which caused significant car damage. He'll need to limit that in order to allow for as much budget as possible to go into the development of the team's new car. But towards the end of 2021, we did see an improvement, and if he builds on those results, he'll definitely improve the quality of this driver lineup. And with a number of Red Bull juniors lining up on the F2 grid this year, he'll be under a lot of pressure to perform. So it's the experience of Gasly and the potential of Tsunoda that means AlphaTauri sits 6th for me. Number 5, Alpine. Alpine next, and this pairing was one of the closest matches on the grid over the course of 2021. Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon were a pairing that worked well together, and with a great team performance in Hungary and a brilliant result in Qatar with 3rd and 5th. Fernando Alonso's return to Formula 1 certainly went to plan. He achieved a podium finish, his first since 2014, and once he was up to speed, he was consistent and quick. It was a good season for the Spaniard as he proved himself still to be capable at 40 years old. His return to the sport, though, was dedicated to his desire to achieve his 3rd World Championship. 2021 was a season dedicated to getting ready for this next season and hoping that Alpine are in a position to compete for the championship from the start of this new era. If they are far off, I can see Alonso retiring, but this is that final roll of the dice to get that elusive 3rd world title. Alonso has proved before that he can compete when he doesn't have the fastest car. 2012 was an incredible season where he took the 3rd or even 4th fastest car to be within a chance of winning the title at the final race of the season. So if Alpine offers him this, I can imagine Alonso will drag that car even further up the grid. Last season was a bit of a breakthrough one for Esteban Ocon, as he proved himself as a solid midfield driver and proved that he was able to do well alongside Fernando Alonso. These results earned him a multiple-year deal with the French team. Ocon's task now is to maintain those performances and not get swept away by the double world champion as multiple other drivers have done before. Stoffel Vandoorne is an excellent example of this. As a driver that didn't really get going in Formula 1, as compared to Alonso, he was just nowhere. Ocon has proven that he's better than this, but maintaining that reputation will be a challenge in 2022. So Alpine have a great driver lineup, and for me, they were actually incredibly close to the team that I've put 4th on this list. Number 4, McLaren. And that team in question is indeed McLaren. Having brought in Daniel Ricciardo to replace Carlos Sainz for 2021, I anticipated that the team would have strengthened their driver lineup for the season. It turns out that for that season at least, I was wrong. Ricciardo failed to get up to speed quickly in what seemed like a challenging car to drive. Fundamentally though, Ricciardo is an incredibly quick driver. He's got the skills and the talent to compete for race wins consistently, but he was far from his best in 2021. Thinking back to his time at Renault, he did improve in his 2nd season, so I expect he'll be able to do the same with a 2022 car that may be more suited to him as a driver. But he's certainly in a position where he has a point to prove this season. Lando Norris, though, is a driver that had a breakthrough year in 2021. He achieved 4 podiums and more points than he has ever before. Many anticipated that he would struggle against his new teammate, but he blew him away over the course of the season. A key factor in his results was getting up to speed quickly. He took advantage of the fact that Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas weren't able to deliver top 4 finishes consistently early in the year, and made sure to hold 3rd in the championship for a large section of that early part of the season. It was an impressive year for the young Brit, and he's announced himself as able to be in the same conversations as the likes of Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell as the future generation of Formula 1. He still needs to maintain that form and improve further if he wants to establish himself as a potential future champion, but there's no doubt that he's on the right trajectory. As for the McLaren driver lineup as a whole, for me, based on last season alone, they were probably worse than the Alpine drivers, but considering Ricciardo's history, they just edge ahead in my opinion. Number 3, Red Bull. In 3rd is Red Bull, and that may seem harsh given they have the current world champion in their lineup, and Verstappen in 2021 was certainly the best performing driver. However, it's his teammate, Sergio Perez, that whilst he did well in his first season with the team in the races, he has certainly had some troubles in qualifying. Had there been 3 teams able to compete for regular wins in 2021, I believe Perez would have been unable to support Verstappen at the front as well as he did last season. I do believe he's the best of the options Red Bull have tried in that seat since Ricciardo's departure, but with some additional pressure, perhaps from one of the driver lineups ahead of Red Bull on this list, I think Perez could struggle to be able to get to the front of the grid as easily as we've seen last year. Max Verstappen is a clear team leader at Red Bull. He's been the driver that the team have backed for a long time now, ever since his promotion in 2016. He's done an excellent job of establishing himself as a driver that can win a championship, and cut out some of the unforced errors that he made in the earlier part of his career. There's no doubting his ability, but fundamentally, as a pairing, there remains a slight doubt over one of the drivers, hence Red Bull sit 3rd. Number 2, Mercedes. For me, Mercedes sits second on this list, and again, that is due to having a driver that has a point to prove in 2021. The team have replaced Valtteri Bottas with George Russell, the driver that they're backing for their future, and he's to be paired with Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be an interesting pairing. Russell has already shown that he can compete with the drivers at the top of the order and deliver outstanding performances, particularly in the wet, that shows how much of a talent he really is. But for me, we have to question whether he can compete right at the front for an entire season. I believe he'll be able to maintain those performances for the year, but his dip in form with Williams towards the end of last season certainly raised questions about whether he could maintain it for a full year. It's this doubt for me that means they are second in this list. As for Lewis Hamilton, well, like Max Verstappen, not really much needs to be said here. He's a 7-time champion for a reason, and that's exactly the type of driver you'd want to see you through in a new set of regulations. Number 1, Ferrari. And finally, my best driver lineup of 2022 is Ferrari. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc were unquestionably the best pairing of 2021, and to be honest, they are both at a similar level, and if they have the right car, either one of them could be world champion this season. Carlos Sainz coming into the Ferrari team to replace Sebastian Vettel was a controversial move for some, but he's proven himself to be more than capable at the top team. His performance in 2021 was excellent, and built on 2 brilliant seasons in the McLaren. A factor in that was just how much time he was willing to put into embedding himself into the team, with a move to Italy to be close to the factory. It's something that enabled him to get up to speed faster than any other driver that switched teams before last season. His 4 podiums and 5th place in the championship has likely given the Ferrari team a bit of a headache, given he's left them in a position where they have 2 relatively young drivers and a queue of Ferrari Academy drivers knocking on the door of Formula 1. Alongside him is Charles Leclerc, the driver that the Ferrari team are backing in the long run and a driver that has a bright future ahead of him. 2021 was a challenge for Leclerc with a number of unlucky results, but as with Verstappen and Hamilton, there's no doubting his talent. So that's why, on the whole, I think the Ferrari team has the strongest driver lineup for 2022. Both drivers are capable and prepared for this season, and if they have the right car, they could be the pairing that takes Ferrari back to winning ways again. Those are my rankings, what are yours? Let me know which driver pairings you'd move in the comments, and if you've watched this far, then make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button for more videos like this one in the future.